Wicked for good, more like Wicked too bad, am I right? My relationship with this movie has been odd. Despite liking the first one more than I thought I would, I can't really say I was ever sold on this one. Everything I'd heard about Act 2 made it sound like everything I disliked about Act 1 amped up to 11. More Wizard of Oz references, less low-stakes friendship shenanigans, worse songs. And yet, this has strangely been one of my most anticipated releases of the year. I don't know, it's definitely partially because I just love musicals. I've had this movie's soundtrack on repeat for the past few months, and it did help for sure. Those who don't like the Act 2 songs are simply weak-minded. But also, even though I found the Wizard of Oz tie-ins annoying in the first movie, something about the plot of this one just strangely intrigued me. It was such a bizarre way to connect everything that I was sure it had to have more to it than I was missing from simply reading the Wikipedia summary. So I sat my ass down that theater not having a single clue on whether I would like it or not, and, well, you saw the intro. Wicked for good is not very good. And I'm sure a lot of my criticisms are just going to be repeats of what people have been saying about Act 2 of the play for years, but like, okay? The weirdest argument that I've seen for this movie online is people saying, what did you expect? This is how Act 2 is, as if that makes things better. If you're adapting something, it is your duty to fix the problems with the source material. I adore the Hunger Games books, I love how faithful the movie adaptations are, but I'm not giving the Mockingjay movies a pass just because they're adapting a terrible book. They should have fixed things a bit. This movie should have fixed things a bit. But before I get into how much I did not like this story, I'll first go over the cinematic aspects of this, which is luckily where most of my praise lies. To start, and the biggest shock I have experienced all year, the movie looks better. I would hesitate to say it looks great, or even that good, but it does look fairly serviceable, which is an insane step up from Wicked Part 1, which is one of the ugliest blockbusters of the decade. The colors are still pretty washed out, but there's at least a lot more colors present, which makes things nicer to look at. And there weren't really any moments of egregious lighting at all. There's many moments where it is kind of underlit and I can't really see the characters all that well. Keep in mind this is still a Wicked movie. But there isn't any dancing through life level incidents either. The CGI was fine enough, certainly not the best of the year, but there's not much to complain about, aside from one hilarious de-aging effect towards the end. The Wonderful sequence looked terrific, but that's like the only scene I would say is exceptional at all. The only real problem is when we're outside during daytime, which luckily is mostly just in the beginning. Those scenes, particularly thank goodness, looks pretty shit, but overall, I wouldn't really say this is among the ugliest movies of the year, whereas Wicked 1 was probably on the top of that list last year. Plus, the production design and costumes are still stellar. I can't really think of a single set that most stood out. I think Frankenstein does kind of outshine this movie in that regard, but every location is still very pretty and it helps that they all feel really tactile. As far as the costumes go, I adore Elphaba's new outfit in this movie, but everything else from Fiero's guard outfit to Glinda's whole wardrobe is still really good. I also loved the makeup work here. As someone who didn't really understand why Wicked 1 kept getting nominated for makeup awards, yeah, I'm gonna be a bit upset if this one isn't recognized. The Tin Man looks fucking phenomenal, holy shit. Scarecrow looks interesting. He looks like Ryan Reynolds. I don't know, on one hand he is supposed to look a little ugly and I think the texture on him is pretty neat, but on the other I burst out laughing when I saw him and I don't think that was the intended reaction. There surely must have been a middle ground. The 1939 Scarecrow looks amazing. Okie dokie, let's talk about the performances. Most of the performances are just good. Marissa Bode is fine. Jonathan Bailey had better stuff to work with in Act 1, but he was pretty good here. Jeff Goldblum I thought was a bit better here. I think his whimsical nature fits the character pretty well in this movie's context. Ethan Slater absolutely ate as Bach. Going in, while everybody was excited about Cynthia's No Good Deed or Ariana's Thank Goodness, I was out here knowing that SpongeBob Adultery Pants over here was absolutely going to slay March of the Witch Hunters. And I was right. I thought he was fucking terrifying as a Tin Man. I have no idea why they cast Coleman Domingo as the lion. I think he literally has like 3 lines without exaggeration. Such a phenomenal actor and singer, and you didn't find a way to incorporate him into any song. I cannot fucking believe this. The lion was a bitch, by the way. Before we get to the 2 stars though, we have one more standout that we have to discuss. Michelle Yeoh, what are we doing here? I thought she was fine in the first one, but oh my god, what the fuck? I don't want to sound too mean, I really like Michelle Yeoh, and I think she's great in movies like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Everything Everywhere All at Once, but she is terrible here. She's bad enough in normal conversation scenes, but whenever she has to make an announcement or, God forbid, sing, it really makes the movie worse. Luckily, the main two characters are still amazing. I'm kind of confused why Ariana is getting so much more praise, to be honest. While she's still great and given plenty of really good emotional moments, I think she just had way more to do in the last movie, and I would say this is a bit worse, simply because the movie is worse. But I can't deny that she still has plenty of good comedic moments and a lot of genuinely moving scenes. But Cynthia, oh man. Easily my favorite performance in the film, a huge improvement over what already was a really good performance last time around, plenty of great dramatic moments, and the singing. Oh man, the singing. Yeah, before we finally get into Act 2, we gotta talk about the songs. Having entered the movie knowing the songs this time around, I have a lot more to say. Every Day More Wicked was pretty good. I think the ensemble does a pretty good job with this one, although I'm not that big of a fan of the new reprises of The Wizard and I, What Is This Feeling, and Popular they added in the middle of it. Just felt like it was trying to remind you of the first movie for no reason. Oh, also, why the fuck would you give Michelle Yeoh more singing bits? Are you fucking crazy? Thank goodness was fine. My only issues are that I'm still not a big fan of the casual, talky way some bits are sung, which is a persisting issue with most songs in both movies. I also found the direction a bit uninspired, which, again, is a problem with the entire movie. John M. Truth still does not have the sauce, and I find his world non-whimsical, his musical choreography and blocking lame, his camera style uninspired, just overall the most boring pick for a movie like this. Also, Every Day More Wicked is just the superior parts of the original, thank goodness, so that doesn't help. No Place Like Home was just bad. Such a weird addition to this movie, and just not a good song musically. The Wicked Witch of the East is one I don't have a comparison for, but I actually didn't mind it like a lot of people seemingly do. I can't hate a Dancing Through Life callback, come on. They absolutely butchered Wonderful, one of the most underrated songs on the soundtrack. While it looks great, the choreography was so awkward, the blocking felt so directionless. The random reprise of Defying Gravity in the middle was cute, but kind of ruined the flow of the song, which was already really off because the instrumentals were faster. They kept stopping to talk or delivered the lines way too casually, switched around some certain parts of it to be in a different order, and also changed some of the lyrics for some reason. Thought it was a mess, and the ending was the only part I liked. Adding Glinda was a fine enough addition, although Jeff Goldblum was already weirdly solid in the song. I'm Not That Girl reprise was pretty good. I thought Ariana's voice complemented the song really well, but I'm also confused as to why there's a full minute and a half of instrumentals after the singing is done. The transition between it and As Long As You're Mine is really good, and removing it makes things so awkward. Like, when they go from normal dialogue to singing about making out, it came across as really out of nowhere. Cynthia and Bailey did a fine enough job, though I guess the new instrumentals are much lighter and more romantic, which does fit the song, but the original has this sinister aura to it that just makes for a more interesting song. The direction here is not as bad as everyone is making it out to be, but Shu is still on fraud watch. I wouldn't exactly call it good. No Good Deed. Brother. Oh my god. This song solidifies Cynthia's performance as the standout. I was so locked in. Easily the best scene. Easily better than the original. I am shook. Only issue is no Fierro at the start on Spotify. March of the Witch Hunters was tweaked to be way more aggressive and scary. I'm kind of take it or leave it with this one. On one hand, I like the theatricality of the original, but on the other, this one has a vibe I really fuck with. Also, not only is Ethan Slater fantastic here, but the lady that yells "Melt Her" at the very end is really funny. Then again, there's a lady in the original ensemble that sings Punished really well, so nah, I don't know, man. The Girl in the Bubble is fine. Unnecessary addition if we're being real, and like a B-tier song at best when compared to the rest of these. I'm rooting for Sinners or Huntrix to win that Oscar, and I will be legitimately upset if this takes the win. For Good was, well, good. One thing they have over the original is that Cynthia and Ariana's voices complement each other in a godlike way, but this has that stopping singing every 3 seconds problem that plagued Defying Gravity. I don't remember if it really bothered me then, but it did here. Cute Defying Gravity instrumental reprise though. And the finale song was good too. Maybe my favorite Act 2 song on the Broadway album. I guess they did it justice. Movie-wise, I think you can guess my favorite song. I'm 2,000 words into the script. I've stated that I did not like the movie and then mostly praised it. Let's get to the real meat of it. Act 2 fucking sucks. What the fuck? Holy shit, I cannot comprehend how messy the story is from every angle. And everyone was saying that they added and changed stuff, that there were things to spoil even if you knew the Broadway version. Did we watch the same movie? First of all, the pacing is god-awful. The main reason I had trusted the movie would be better from a story that was supposedly rushed and didn't make sense was because this is a 2-hour, 20-minute version of a 50-minute long act. they had over doubled the runtime to fix everything. So, where did the runtime go? This movie is still incredibly rushed. Every scene is speedrunning to either get to a musical number or hit a story beat so we can immediately jump to the next scene. We never get to just be in the moment, sit down, breathe, connect with the characters. I recognize that this movie has emotional moments, but for me, none of them hit because none of them felt like they got built up too naturally, nor did they end in a gentle passion. Whenever you're supposed to cry, the movie is just dying to move on. And if you think the movie's fast in the first hour, just wait till Dorothy arrives. We run through the events of The Wizard of Oz so abruptly that I was physically flabbergasted in the theater. And now I'm going to pose a question that you're not supposed to pose for some reason. Why can't we see the events of The Wizard of Oz? And before you yell at me about how this is Elphaba's story and I just want stupid fan service, just hear me out. This whole thing kind of reminds me of how the final arc of the Clone Wars exists alongside Revenge of the Sith. Ahsoka would just be doing stuff, and then the characters would inform her of how far into the events of Revenge of the Sith we are. This was fine for two reasons. One, we knew that the version of Revenge of the Sith that we have seen is the one that's currently happening. And two, there are no characters that we need to see who are currently busy with being in Revenge of the Sith. We don't need to see Obi-Wan or Anakin because we can just watch the movie if we want to see that. This could not be further from the case here. Firstly, casting a new person as Dorothy is fine and not disrespectful to Judy Garland. It's only bad if you do one of those CGI recreation monsters. But second, 2 out of 7 main characters are now directly involved with The Wizard of Oz now. The original Wizard of Oz story is fundamentally different, yet we're avoiding showing it because the broad strokes have been told before. Any existing version of this story is not reliably the one that's happening here. Similar overall points, sure. But there is no movie in which the Tin Man and the Scarecrow are university friends. Them being here is so confusing for so many reasons. How did Scarecrow join Dorothy if she began her journey before his transformation? Did Fiyero not have any trauma or questions over what just happened? He saw his new body and decided to just accompany Dorothy immediately? Bach, in a murderous rage, decided to also help Dorothy get back home? He didn't know he'd get tasked with murdering Elphaba. The two never said anything to each other. What did Fiyero think about being tasked with murdering his girlfriend? Did he try to stop Bach from doing it? These aren't just throwaway questions, you need to help me out here. I know we're supposed to just act like the 1939 version of the film is the one that happens, but it's not! Characters behave very differently in that movie. The witch is just evil, and she encounters Dorothy before her journey begins, by the way, so continuity-wise it's already flawed. When Madame Morrible says that each of the companions have a wish, it's like, get fucking real. There's no reason for that line to be in the movie unless we're trying to imply that the 1939 film is happening. Bach wanting a heart I can get behind since he quite literally lost his, but it's not like Fiyero is actually brainless. Why would he ask for one? And this isn't just important stuff because this plot is nonsensical and I want answers as to how these two came upon joining Dorothy, or how they reacted to one another and how Fiyero knew of the trap door at the end. It's important because it means 2 of our characters just don't have satisfying conclusions. So many of these characters are just thrown out the window with no regard if their story is properly finished or not. The wizard learns the big twist and it would be a fine scene if the pacing wasn't itching for the scene to end. I don't even get what happens to Madame Morrible. Glinda just kind of publicly executes her, like, can the people not see this? Did you tell them she's evil yet? How are you even in charge right now? What? Nessa admittedly is the one character you do kind of have to cap off unceremoniously, and it would be fine if Elphaba had a proper reaction to it. Fiyero has an ending, but a huge chunk of his journey is absent because for some reason the final twist is more important, so his ending barely feels earned. He needed to have been a character as the Scarecrow throughout the movie instead of being an oh shit moment at the end. And don't even fucking get me started on Bach. There's so much you can do with this character, so much body horror potential, have us feel the rage he feels and feel conflicted about it because it's directed at the wrong person. He has one scene after he turns into the Tin Man. No info on how he got to this point, no info on what happens next. Go girl, give us nothing. I think he has like maybe 4 scenes in total in the movie. Telling us he turned into the Tin Man is not a freebie to not write the rest of his story. Doesn't tell us what happened to him, it raises more questions. The first movie is longer than this and covers a smaller scoped story. You need to add scenes. They just added 2 mediocre songs and a pointless Kid Glinda scene. Add scenes with Bach and Fiyero, one where they meet each other again, one where Fiyero reacts to his new body, one where he tries to convince Bach to not kill Elphaba. You can even have a funny Dorothy reaction to two of her companions having so much beef. Add a scene where Elphaba finds out Nessa died and properly grieves because currently she doesn't even cry, and then immediately after starts flirting with her girlfriend. Add scenes with the lion. Add scenes with the wizard that show that he truly does want a family so that him just stepping away in the ending makes more sense. Hell, more scenes of Elphaba being wicked. Maybe established before Dorothy arrives that the shoes have meaning to her because there's no way that's the last reminder of your sister. That comes out of fucking nowhere. Make it a family heirloom, I don't fucking know. Give me a fucking Bach scene post-March of the Witch Hunters. It doesn't even have to be him accepting his new life. Show me that he's forever living in rage. It's at least something. The segment really could have been called the Tin Man rant, but this is such an interesting concept that they only added for shock value and it pisses me off. So much potential, but it's just there to be like, whoa, remember the Tin Man? Yes, this was kind of my most hyped aspect of the movie, but it's also emblematic of everything wrong with this script. Same goes for Fiyero, but at least he has an ending, even if the journey there was nonsensical. The Wizard of Oz cramming, yet refusal to show any of it, combined with this fuck-ass pace, makes it so that none of this movie flows naturally. Scenes barely have meaning anymore, dialogue is distracting us from a potential song, and there's no point being in the moment because all we want is to get to the end. When For Good began playing, I was just like, oh yeah, I guess it's time for that. It didn't feel like, yep, the characters have naturally come to this point and they are at the end of their journeys. Even Elphaba and Glinda, who are by far the highlights, don't feel like they got enough content in this. I don't even like Wicked 1 that much, but this low-key made it worse. I wouldn't have minded rewatching it one day, but now all I'm gonna think about is how none of these characters get proper endings. Actually, fuck that. You made listening to the soundtrack worse. Now it's upsetting knowing the context of these songs. This shit's gonna be on the top of my Spotify Wrapped, and now I can't even enjoy it the same way. John M. Chu chose to go the easy route and adapt terrible source material 1-to-1, and he couldn't even do me the courtesy of having good direction while doing it. Wicked For Good gets a very upsetting 5 out of 10. Trust me, I want it to be higher. At least Avatar 3 is looking likelier for Best Picture now. Navi Nation, we move.